Hill on 3rd and 18. Second straight sack. This time it's Leonard Floyd. Deep, it is caught. Atwell, touchdown. 62 yards. Pass over the middle, caught by Higbee. And Higbee picks up a first down. There's Stafford. End zone. It is caught for a touchdown by Allen Robinson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the East Coast Rams podcast. I am one of your Grace's co-hosts, Ashton, with my awesome co-host, Zac. Zac, how are you doing? Getting ready for Thanksgiving? What are you looking forward to kind of munching on? Because, I think we're going to be eating our feelings this Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I'm thankful for having some time off of work. I think that's going to be very nice, being able to enjoy some time with my family. So yeah, as far as my Thanksgiving food, I'm a turkey person.
Turkey.
I get really irritated when I go to a family gathering and they just have ham. I do not think ham is a Thanksgiving meal. You can fight me on Twitter about that, but I am all for turkey.
I am one of those sacrilegious ham people that you speak of because I find turkey dry as heck.
Well, that's
So
what the
I can't.
mashed potatoes and the gravy and the green beans and all the stuff. You just pile it on a plate. It all just blends together.
Yeah, I like ham and mac and cheese. I go like
Whoa.
1/5 ham and like 4/5 mac and cheese. I just go into that mac and cheese. Love it. That kind of crunchy old Southern style mac and cheese.
Ooh, with the I do like a good baked, like with the crispy
Mm-hmm.
on top. I do enjoy that. I would rather have that than the bottom layer or the middle layer, which is more gooey. I would rather have some of that little crunch. So I will go with you on that, but I do not think that's a Thanksgiving Day meal. So I will accept your sacrilegious beliefs, and we can talk about this once again, devastating Rams loss from the Bayou.
Yeah, if our season wasn't already in jeopardy, you hit the panic button now. This is, I'm sorry guys, but this season is already going on the fringes. What's your first reaction to this loss, Zach?
It's disappointing. I mean, this is the game that we're coming off of, multiple lost games. We lost Cooper Kupp. We lost kind of the spark of this team. Maybe not the soul, because I think that lies within like Aaron Donald, things like that. But he was really he was a good spark. He made the fantastic plays. He always came in clutch. And this was the time for the wide receiving core, this offense, to step up and say we can still do something without Kupp. And I think we did see, definitely not on the first drive, but I think after that we started to see some spark. Whether that was from Atwell with a 62-yard touchdown from Stafford, or if it was from Allen Robinson. I think we saw that spark coming to life. Our O-line just couldn't protect our quarterback, and unfortunately had to depart on the game.
Yeah, Zach, I think the big thing in this game was that I thought the offense for probably those 3 drives, while we didn't score each drive that Stafford was in, or 4 drives, I thought it looked the best this offense has looked in like 5 weeks. It looked like it was somewhat productive. It was getting good chunks. They were moving. They didn't execute the best. They got stopped on 4th down. But I thought without having Kupp, it forced the team to have to be more balanced. I love Kupp, and I feel like our season's going to be almost nearly impossible without having him. to make it to the playoffs. But, this team needed some creativity forced upon it. And I think that was caused. But losing Stafford, that was nail in coffin in this game. I think we win this game if Stafford stays in. I don't think it's a blowout by any means, but I do think we win it.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree 100% with what you're saying, because when we started off this ball, we were just like, wait a minute, is this the same team? Like, they just kept running the ball. Like, they did, do some, throwing here or there while Stafford was in, but they were really kind of run heavy, which was very surprising, and I think it caught even the Saints off a little bit off guard on that too. So I agree with you. I think if Stafford would have stayed in and was kept clean, I think this was an easy win. Well, not an easy win, but it would have been a win for us, and something that this team really needs at that point. And now I feel like this team is even more defeated with this loss. This was their ability to bounce back, and they just couldn't get it done. And as much as Perkins tried, they tried to be creative with him. He ran the best he could, and was able to keep those drives alive. There was just a lot of mistakes, a lot of penalties that just kept them from actually getting into the end zone, which is what they desperately needed at that point in time. Mostly to, unfortunately, I think it goes into our defense, where our defense couldn't hold it. I mean, we were leading at halftime without Stafford, and our defense just couldn't do what they have been doing for a good majority of this season in controlling the opposing team's offense to minimal points, and instead gave them 14 points in the second half to put them over the top. Or 17 points, I should say.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's one of those things where, like I said, 20 is the limit you want to get. The offense got to 20. We should have won this game, or at least go into overtime at 20. But the defense didn't do great. They did fine. I would say fine because it's against Andy Dalton and not a top tier quarterback. They did fine. The Saints have some good playmakers, and we didn't really do the best at kind of keeping them. Our safeties got exposed again. Even Rusty East was getting in some playing time. I think that says a lot about Taylor Rapp, which, don't get me wrong, Taylor Rapp had a good play in this game. But like one good play and then 80% just getting burnt. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know, Zach. Like, it's the same story every game now.
For sure. I mean, Rapp, he had that one good play, and he seems like he has one good play every 5 games. And that's not what you need from your safeties. And, he's unable to help out some of his other teammates. That one play was kind of a dual thing. I think it was the long play by Olave. I think that one was that was the one where Ramsey was trying to run with him and couldn't, and Rapp wasn't able to help him in the back. So it's just tough. This defense just seems like, I don't know. It at times I feel like it feels like sometimes it's given up, but at the same times you got Greg Gaines going out there getting his 2 sacks. You have Leonard Floyd out there getting his 2 sacks. The defense put 4 sacks, a total of 39 yards lost. But at the same time, Andy Dalton threw for 21 of 25 with 260 yards, 3 touchdowns, giving him a rating of 149.6. I'm like, that is not okay for this defense against Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton is a mediocre to slightly above mediocre backup quarterback, but he should not have been having this successful of a game. And I know they put in Tyson Hill to kind of give that avoidance and, allow him to run the ball and kind of put some trickery behind that too. But this defense is better than this. And it just did not come to fruition this week.
Yeah, I mean, it just you got to take it to the bank. Like, you're gonna have a bad day in the office. Like, this defense is gonna have some bad games, and just they need the offense to be good every so often. And the offense was average. Like, you can't just be average and expect to win.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and people can yell at the defense, but like again, they held them for most of the game, and the offense was struggling to get points in the second half.
How do you feel about Riley Dixon? I want to kind of go to special teams because they had that was kind of an oddity. Obviously, we have Matt Gay, who got both of his field goals, including his 58-yard one at the very end. That was kind of in the garbage time, but kind of trying to set up another play after that field goal. But Riley Dixon, I don't know. I mean, he had one good punt this game of a long of 60, but it just doesn't seem like he has been that successful at getting the opposing team's offense into bad positions. What is your take on that?
He's a below average punter. I mean, we knew this coming into the season. His stats didn't amaze anyone. I wanted to draft a punter. Now, I understand from the Rams' point of view, almost all the good punters got drafted really high, very weirdly this draft. Like, a lot of punters got drafted. And early on, I think the first punter went in the 4th or 3rd round. Like, that's ridiculous. So there was a run on punters this draft, which you almost never can say that sentence. But it happened, and therefore we had to sign a free agent, and he is what we got. And he is probably going to get replaced after this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't been super impressed, so I just wanted to make sure that I'm not the only one because I haven't really, we're on Twitter and we complain about this, that, and the other, and no one really has. I haven't seen at least much people talking about Riley Dixon and how the punting game has been. But going on one of the more positive notes that also was a negative note, but was the kind of the fun trick play with Brandon Powell and Jalen Ramsey. I thought that was a super clever play to utilize Jalen and Powell in that way of a potential of a 39-yard gain got called back because of a penalty, but it was just a fun
He got
play.
very close to busting that open for a TD.
Oh, very close. And I think honestly, when I was watching, I feel like there was just one player that one Rams player, and I feel like if Ramsey just would have went around him instead of going towards the out, he would have broken loose. But that was such a fun play. I don't think the holding would have can't if it wasn't held. I think it was still going to be a good play, and I think he would have been successful. Just as successful. I don't think that had anything to do with that ability, but it was just it felt bad for Jalen for that purpose because that was such a cool play and just couldn't make it work out in the end. Which
can we just comment on how good of a returner BP is? He is, and people take it for granted because remember when we would just complain about our returners being atrocious for 3 years straight.
Yeah.
He is just very smart. He always, for 85% of the time, 90% of the time, he makes the right decision on whether to let the ball bounce or where to let it bounce, when to take it out, how to take it out. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And when he gets the ball in his hands, at least as a returner, he's electric. I think he has some capability in the regular offense. I still do. Because every time he gets the ball, he's just one of those players that feels like he's about to break one, and it's just stuff hasn't gone his way. And I think that's a lot to do with the O-line because of the positions he's been getting the ball in.
I agree. I think he's dominant. I knew early on, I think there was a couple issues where we kind of felt like he he always got the ball in the end zone and then he would run it out. And I think he's been very smart about that more recently, especially this season alone, where he hasn't been doing that as much. And that either could be a strategic thing from, he is that explosive player that he could take it to the house from the end zone. But I think the Rams have to be smart, and he's been smart about making those right calls. But he has been super electric, and I think we see that him being put into the offense more regularly. Yes, he may only get a handful of catches or a handful of sweeps or a few plays here or there, but him being put into that offense is impactful. I mean, if you go back and look at a lot of the other punt returners that we have, they were punt returners. I mean, you go back to Simba Webster, and he was a a decent punt returner, but he was never in the offense really. I mean, maybe once in a while if they had to pull players, he might have been in there, but not as effective as Brandon Powell has been. So very pleased with his performance, and I really want him to break one loose. So that's pretty much what I got to say about him. I mean, he had one of his kick returns went for 34 yards. So he's going to make it one of these times. We're just waiting for that to happen.
Yeah. Let's kind of talk about Perkins. How do you think Perkins did? Because Stafford, real quickly, I thought Stafford was doing good with what he had.
Yeah, I really don't think Perkins. He did all right. I don't think he had an excellent game, but at the same time, I don't think he was expected to be in the game. And I know when you're a backup quarterback, you're always expected to be able to pick up the mantle and run with it. But for the most part, I mean, for this season and even for last season, he's been third string quarterback. Like, he's always been behind Wolford. He's always, behind obviously Stafford, then Wolford, and then him. He had an opportunity last week to get in there. Really was more used as a run package than a throwing passage. He only had one throwing pass. And so, I mean, his threat is with his legs. And we did see that. I mean, he had 5 carries for 39 yards, averaging 7.8. And you really like having that as the quarterback, but that's where things kind of left it. He was 5 for 10 for 64 yards, averaging 6.4 yards when he did throw it to a player. So I don't know. He had just slightly too high. I mean, I guess it was way too high for Skoranek. I mean, you saw Skoranek, like he had to like use all of his force to jump even to that height. But it was still, I mean, if that would have been a catch by Skoranek, I think we would have, obviously been in a better position. But unfortunately it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I want to see him in a full game. I would want to, if Stafford's out, I want him to start the game and not just be like, well, Wolford's back, so we're just gonna mix the package up again.
I get the argument that he's been third string, but this is the NFL, and you only get so many opportunities. A lot of people never even get the chance. Once they get back up, they sit the bench and they never get to play, and then they go out after 4 years. It is complete luck of the draw if you're a backup, if you get to start, and you have to make your opportunities count. And I just don't think he did a great job of doing that, especially with throwing.
So
I didn't think he was awful. He looked to me better than Wolford, but that's not a high bar.
Mm-hmm. Man, autoplay videos, they stink. Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like, I'm kind of going back and kind of looking through some of the games or some of the plays that Perkins had in. So Perkins came in actually in the third quarter with 5 minutes left of the game, or 5 minutes left of the third quarter. And so I'm kind of going through what happened. And like his first play out there, he had 12 plays for 60 yards, ended up in a field goal. Um, so that wasn't too terrible. The next time he had the ball, it was 6 plays for 26 yards. Again, not something that we like to see, but it wasn't a 3-and-out. It wasn't until his third drive where uh, things kind of fell short, and they went to a 3 passing plays, or 3 shotgun plays, and that's kind of where the O line really put him in a bad position, and he got sacked two of those 3 times. And then again in the his fourth and final drive, he had was 6 plays for 34 yards, which they decided to kick the field goal. So I mean, in his 4 drives that he actually had, 2 of them didn't come away with points. Um, kind of trying to go through what all happened, but there was a delay of game. There was just a lot of things that did happen. But I mean, realistically, if you look at those 4 drives that he had the opportunity to participate in, it wasn't terrible. He used his legs a lot. They utilized Cam Akers and things like that. So I don't think it was a terrible performance. I would want to see, before making full judgment, is I want him to get a Wolford experience. I want him to be able to say, all right, I am the starting quarterback from beginning to end, had most of the reps throughout the entire week of practice, and see where things were at that point. I get what you're saying. When when your number is called, you got to make the plays. But for this performance, with the 4 drives that I saw, 2 of them ending up with some points, made me a little bit more hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine. I'm fine with him getting the start over Wolford. I perfectly am. After that game, it wasn't like he looked atrocious and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to see him. I just think it's not a great sign that he wasn't ready to step in right then and there. And he looked like the lights got to him some. You could tell, right?
Are you telling me that backup quarterbacks are supposed to win games for you? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I mean, they're winning against us. I just want a little bit of that backup QB winning action. Is that too much to ask, Zach?
It shouldn't be, but yet it is.
Ooh. So injuries. It looks like Ty. Do you know how to pronounce his last name?
I say Neskis, but that's probably incorrect.
Yeah. Well, it looks like Ty's injury isn't. Looks like it will be minor, so he should be back. Thank Lord, because if I have to watch Bobby Brown play another snap, Zach, I'm gonna just jump off a bridge. I'm tired of it.
Yeah, I mean, the O line is definitely not there when he's in the game. But yeah, I mean, this O line is just getting beat up like no one's business. I mean, we've lost now 3 left tackles. We keep having to put in a player who continuously has been pulled from being that starting role and has had to go back and fill that position. I don't know what it is with these defenses, and are they just they know that's the weakness, so they're like, we're just going to knock that guy out because we know that their backup can't help in that position. So whatever it is, it's not pretty. The O line is not pretty. We've had difficulties in the run game in the pass game, but it all comes down to does Stafford have enough time to throw the ball? Does the offensive line put an opening so that whether it's Cam Akers or Henderson, anybody is able to find space? So we'll see. Seemed like Kyron Williams found some space, helping out in that aspect, but still trying to figure out the best way to move forward with a broken offensive line, to say the least.
Yeah. Oh man, get to play the Chiefs next. Do you want to talk about that game, Zach? Preview bloodbath.
Yeah, I mean, the most positive thing I can even say about this game is that maybe this is a trap game for the Chiefs. That's pretty much all I have for it. I mean, other than that, this seems like this is going to be a blowout. It all goes down to what our defense is going to allow. And in these
Oh
games,
man.
it seems like they can be as strong, and they can we could foresee them doing 4 field goals, but at the same time, these big plays that they're allowing this in these certain games, they are definitely breaking when they're just trying to hold the bend. But yeah, I don't see this game looking great, especially since it's in Kansas City. We used to be road warriors. I mean, you don't. I remember every time. It's like, oh, the Rams are away. Oh, that's easy. They're going to win because they win more on the road than they do at home, and that is not the case this year. And it's just, um, Patrick Mahomes has his magic. And I don't know why we can't have some of that same magic. The Chiefs are good, seems to be good every single year. The Rams seem to, kind of be in that up and flow of, yeah, we're good, and then we kind of crash and burn, and then we kind of go up, and then we crash and burn. And we need more consistency. Yes, we won the Super Bowl, and I will take that over in having a bad season the year after that. I will take that for what it's worth. But I would like to see some consistency of us doing something more than nothing.
Yeah, I mean that Kansas City success does come with how many decades of Andy Reid not winning a Super Bowl and learning through hard losses,
Yeah.
right? Like he learned from experience and a lot of bad experiences to build up to this current version of the Kansas City Chiefs and this continued success, because he knows the pitfalls. He knows like some of those long-term lessons of minor roster moves that you don't know until you've been in a head coaching job for a decade or so, right? So I think that's something McVay would have learned after doing this job for more like time. And like we've seen him change already in the short amount of time he's been the Rams head coach. It just uh I think Andy Reid's in a different situation, and he's been able to get a generational QB that's young and that has only been under him, and he's been able to mold. That's not the same with Stafford. As much as I love Stafford, he's not the youngest, and he has built up some. He's built up some bad habits that he's had to get out of, and McVay hasn't been able to fully mold the QB the way he's wanted to, for good and for bad, right? Like Stafford brings some really good attributes from Detroit that we appreciate, that got us through some hard games last year. It just, now you're seeing the downside of that is he is older, he's more prone to injury, not to mention just overall the roster depth wasn't there in the O line. And I think that like you don't see Andy Reid making that type of pick in the second round for Tutu Atwell. And this isn't a criticism on Tutu Atwell either. Um,
I mean, I think we've, and just to jump in real quickly for the Tutu part. I mean, we both have kind of been, slightly, and I guess I shouldn't speak for yourself, but I feel like we've been slightly proven wrong in the fact that when Tutu's out there, the plays that he does make are a difference maker. I mean, he is fast, and he is able to catch those balls, and the plays that he does do, he's catching 50, 60-yard balls. That's somebody that we need. We're just not doing that consistently. Whether that's because he's not out there on the field, which could be a McVay problem or something like that. Like, we're just not utilizing some of our players at those moments, and we don't get to see them thrive like we did with his 62-yard touchdown.
and I get that. And there is value to what he brings and what he does. But the problem is that's not a second round value. That's just the fact.
That's not what we
Right.
needed at that
And
time.
and that's not also on Tutu. Tutu didn't choose to get picked there. The Rams picked him. And my criticism is not with him, but it's more kind of with the Rams and how they chose him instead of other priorities that I thought they ignored. They ignored center and guard. And I think that's biting them in the butt now.
Yeah, and we all know McVay. He's a genius when it comes to the offense. He can only control what he can control as far as what plays he calls. And we think Les Snead is great at his job of finding the talent and bringing them in outside of the draft. When it seems like when we look at the draft, yes, there are players in the later rounds that we get that we really utilize, and we see them shine. But it is those beginning round picks, and that's why we get. Sometimes it feels like, yeah, let's just get rid of them if all we're going to do is pick, again, Tutu, when we didn't really need Tutu Atwell. The same thing can be said for various other players, and that's just where I think it's at. I think we need to focus on what we need, and if we can't get that outside, then we have to look at the draft. I mean, that you're going to be your prime choosing for if you need offensive linemen. And when you lose two key offensive linemen, whether it's because they retired or you didn't want to re-sign them for an extended contract, that's on you to fix. And now you're seeing what happens when you lose, 20% of your offensive line.
So now that brings us to talking about the future of the team. And so, Zach, and we can kind of make this a dialogue when we go into talking about the future of this team on whether we should start our rebuild now, next year, or the year after. Zach, do you agree with me that we're gonna have to start rebuilding the next 3 years? Correct. Like, let's just start off from that baseline.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we know, if everything stays the course right now, based on before this season, really, we were getting
2 years
at most 2 years for Donald and for Stafford. That was it.
Yeah. So, and this is something fans are going to have to ask themselves, and, you can chime in with your opinion, Zach, whether or not to start that rebuild next year or the year after, right? That's going to be the big question this offseason, because let's be honest with ourselves, the chances of the season turning around are very slim, especially with Cooper Kupp out. Like, that's going to be now. We might have had a chance if he stayed in and everything turned around completely. It's not. OBJ is not signing with us, guys. That's just reality. No white knight, nothing like that's going to come out to save us. So the question is, what do we do this offseason? And I think we have some valuable players that teams would, and picks, let me reiterate this. Something from Jordan Rodriguez of The Athletic has kind of pointed out. The Rams were on the forefront of looking at talented veteran players and valuing them more than they were valued at the current point in time. People were selling them lower and for less picks than they were really worth in the Rams' eyes. And that's why the Rams went out and started trading a lot for these players. That has changed. That's clearly not the same situation now. The GMs are competing with the Rams in situations where in years past it was just the Rams really talking, and maybe one other team, right? But the other team was shy and like kind of hoarded their first round picks, and like GMs just weren't aggressive like the Rams were. That's the opposite this last trade deadline, as everyone saw other teams were willing to up, and even got to the point where teams were using the Rams name to solely just gin up trade rumors for their players. That's how crazy it has gotten around, kind of like how aggressive these GMs are trying to get for these teams, trying to give away all these assets, trying to repeat the formula the Rams have gotten. Clearly, it worked for the Rams for last year, but whether or not it's still kind of like the meta thing to do, if you're using a gaming term, remains to be seen with this changing economy of draft picks and their value. It could be going the other way, where draft picks aren't valued as much as they should be, right?
For sure.
And so that's going to be something where if players are being traded for a high of picks, like I think it all centers around Zach if Aaron Donald retires or not. I think if he retires this offseason, we should for sure 100% start a rebuild right then and there. I think that's when we should start trading away older valued players.
But
Do
I mean,
you
the question is who is that? Are we trading away Ramsey? Are we trading away Cup? Are we trading away we're looking at the players that may be worth something to somebody, and as much as I just don't know who we're going to be trading. Greg Gaines. I mean, like, are we looking at that? What players do we have that are going to be worth something to somebody? I mean, because in this next draft, we don't have a first round pick. We're giving a high. It look as of right now, if things don't change, we're going to be giving a really high draft pick to the Lions for Stafford. So
um
who do we have to sell if that's the way we're going? Who do we have to sell that's going to start that rebuilding now? Um, what are your thoughts?
well, so the big one is going to be Cooper Cup. I know fans aren't going to like this, and I want Cup to be a Ram for life. I don't think that's going to happen. He is still at that age where he has 4 to 5 more good years in him, with his skill set, and 2 of those years are going to be rebuilding. And with the current composition of the team and in our current picks, I think you almost have to trade him away, especially if Aaron Donald retires. And because if he retires, our entire defense is going to have to get reworked. And at that point, you're going to have an offense carry you. And who thinks this offense can carry anything next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it gives if it I think I think we keep talking about Donald and if Donald leaves, but we've hit this week where this past week, not this current week, but the week prior, Stafford was out for being in concussion protocol. Number one, we're not even sure if he ever had a concussion. We just know that he was in the protocol and missed the week. And now he is still in. He is still not in concussion protocol right now, but he's being evaluated, which I'm kind of looking through Twitter and it's like, how long, why does it take more than 24 hours to know if someone's in or out of concussion protocol? But if this becomes another repeat, Stafford's getting beat up, he's getting hit hard, Stafford decides to leave, is this where we figure out, okay, let's get a quarterback, which then gives maybe the chance of keeping Cup around as the only Rams legacy player to help out the
I
new offense.
I think the problem is, in order to get a first round pick in this upcoming draft, we're going to trade away Ramsey or Cup, because Aaron Donald. So if either Aaron Donald retires or Stafford retires, it's going to trigger the other one to retire. I think that's just the reality. I think at that point, the other person's going to be like, it's kind of it's that time. And it wouldn't surprise me if Ramsey doesn't decide to ask for a trade. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, the ship is sinking, and Ramsey has been through this before, and he doesn't want to go through it again. I don't think he would, and I don't think we should judge someone for wanting to be in a workplace where he's seeing success and not having to deal with a rebuild, having to go through one in Jacksonville already in his career. Um, so I whether or not Ramsey asks for one, I think you're gonna have to trade either Ramsey or Cup to get a first rounder. I don't think anyone else on the roster that would still be here would command a first rounder. But other players that could be traded, I would see as like Leonard Floyd. I think he could be traded. I think he would command maybe a third round pick. Uh, Maybe Allen Robinson, but I don't think he's going to get us much, to be honest, if we trade him away. Daryl Henderson, possibly, but he's coming up on a kind of free agency period, so I don't even think we re sign him. Um, Possibly Van Jefferson. I could see people wanting Ernest Jones, but I don't think you trade him. He's going to be a cornerstone of your defense in 2 to 3 years. Van Jefferson, he's 26, so he's in that weird area where he's like mid age. Can he go through a rebuild? Yes, but he would be on the older side if he does. What do you think about Van Jefferson possibly trading him?
I mean, selfishly, I rather him than Cup. But I think the Rams, even if the Rams kept Van Jefferson, I think that's still successful. If they got rid of him, I don't think that would negatively degrade the Rams offense, depending on the situation that we're in. Um, you know, that gives Powell more of a chance. That gives Skoranek more of a chance. That give again, like I feel like our weapons, we have a decent bit of weapons, whether they're as proven as Cup or A Rob. That's one thing. But we do have the players that if we lost a Van Jefferson, I think we can manage. I mean, we did manage. I mean, I know we've lost, but we've had Van Jefferson back for 2 weeks, and it still hasn't done a lot to improve our offense.
Uh-huh.
So again, I love all Rams players that are on the team, and I wouldn't want to see any of them go. But if Van Jefferson is that casualty, I think it would be good if he was able to be successful on another team. But I think that's the casualty that I would be willing to sacrifice.
So, there's also Ashawn Robinson. I definitely think he would be trade possible. Nick Scott. I think some teams would be interested in him.
I think some people
Um,
would be interested in Greg Gaines. I mean, just look at, I
yeah,
mean,
Greg
yesterday,
Gaines too.
he had 2 good sacks. I mean, I know he's missed a little bit of time this year, kind of minimal on his injury, but he's a great player. I mean, I feel like he's one of the most um, underrated defensive players, especially on this Rams team. I mean, I love hearing him make the call, and I mean, he is a fast dude for being that size, like being that strong, and his ability to get to the quarterback is just freaky fast in comparison to some of the other players. So I could see him being a willing pawn to this. So yeah.
Um, No Boom would possibly be tradable.
The
Um,
problem the problem becomes when you start going to the offense. I mean, it's the offensive line. I feel like they can't just chew away their current offensive line, even if they're going into being a rebuilding year. I think you're going to have to try to keep that as whole as possible.
I think
Um,
Haven sign would also be possibly tradable. He's
yeah,
30.
I mean, it is possible, but again, like I said, like when you're in this season where your offensive line is terrible and as beat up as it is, I think even in a rebuilding year, you're going to want to try to keep some consistency in that line group. Or a rebuild year. I mean, a rebuild year is, yes, it may be another down year, but it's also a year of opportunity and a year to, you know, make some drastic changes. But I don't think you want to, again, when I said you look at, we lost 40% of our offensive line, I don't think you can willingly lose another or another 20 to 40% the next year again and have any sort of success. And if Sean McVay is truly in it to be here, not for the long term, for the short term, I truly believe that. I think even though he says he's tied to Aaron Donald, I think he still has at least 3 years left with the Rams. I don't think he really wants to go through something so drastic that he can't make a winning team, even if it's somewhat of a rebuild.
Okay, what about this, Zach? Do you take a first round pick for Cup next year?
No.
What about 2 first rounders, one next year and then 1 year the year after?
You're asking me as a fan. I mean, it makes sense. I mean,
You're a GM.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting, but this is the LA Rams. This isn't the St. Louis Rams. And so when I'm a GM of the LA Rams, of an LA fan base, that you're trying to put people in these seats, a team that is very hard to do that even now. Even after they won a Super Bowl, they've been to 2 Super Bowls since they've been to LA. They won 1 Super Bowl. They're still having problems filling seats and making this a Rams dominant stadium. As a GM, I cannot say that if you lose Stafford or you lose or you lose Aaron Donald.
So Stafford and AD both retire.
I don't think you can legitimately, for the LA Rams, for a Los Angeles team, based on all of what's there, you need a star player. And as much as I love Ramsey, I don't think he's the player who's going to bring you people in. Cooper Kupp is the Triple Crown winner, the Super Bowl MVP. He outside of Aaron Donald, he is the Rams organization. He is everything about the Rams. He is the mascot. He is the spark. He would be the soul. And if you take away the spark and the soul, that this experiment of moving teams, whatever, has completely failed. You're going to get no one in the stadium. You're going to get none of that generational, that generational input of, if you can't keep a player here, a star here, you're not going to succeed in this NFL. And I truly feel like they have to be thinking that way, that if they lose Donald, they have to keep somebody else. And I think right now, Cooper Kupp is that person they have to keep.
So you would trade away Ramsey before Cup?
If I am a GM in this LA market trying to keep people in the seats, yes.
So what if the Seahawks come to you and offer their 2 first rounders? One is probably going to be top 5. 2 first rounders this upcoming draft, and a second rounder next draft for Cooper Kupp. You turned that down.
I don't see how you can trade Cooper Kupp if right now the Seahawks are leading the division. I don't fathom trading players away to a divisional team. I know it can happen. I know it has happened. It just blows my mind that would even be a consideration for the Seahawks.
Yeah, but you look at their point of view, Geno Smith, I know they have Lockett and DK, but you had Cooper Cup. That's the best wide receiving core in the NFL, right?
But why would you give that to your rivals in the division?
For 2 first rounders and a second rounder, that's a haul. What about 2 first rounders and a first rounder the year after?
Oh, okay. So now we're giving away 3. I don't think I can answer this question. Would you give it up?
If I was the Seahawks to get Cooper Cup?
Well, it's really hard, but that just seems.
Yeah, but you're talking about Cooper Cup on top of DK and Lockett. That's a hell of a trio.
Right, but you also have to. This is Cooper Kupp's second big injury of his NFL career.
True, and that's why I don't think he'll command 3 first rounders. But like other teams that could possibly be in the market would be like possibly the Dolphins, the Texans definitely would be up in there.
Yeah, all these things are can be. To me, they're terrifying to think about. They can be fun to a lot of people to think about, but we got to see what happens. Speculation aside.
I do not think we trade anyone big if Stafford and Aaron Donald stay. And I still think there's a chance they will. But Stafford, it's starting to look more and more like he might retire. And if he does it, I definitely think AD just pulls the trigger right then and there.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that assessment that if one retires, the other one will probably follow?
I see it as if Aaron Donald if he did retire this year, obviously I think Stafford would have stayed around. I can see Stafford staying if Aaron Donald left. I don't really see it in reverse. Unless somehow the Rams miraculously pulled another Stafford and, picked up somebody else who, whatever player
No
out
one
there.
comes on the market outside of Lamar. Like if Lamar doesn't resign.
So let's say we pick up Lamar. We're going with your crazy theories. We're going with your crazy theories.
Don't give us hope.
If Stafford leaves and we're like, hey Lamar, we'll give you a crap ton of money. You come over here.
Yeah, but
you get to live in LA. You don't have to be in Baltimore in the cold weather anymore.
Who is he gonna be throwing the ball to? Who's he gonna be running the ball? Give the ball off to?
We'll give you Cooper Kupp. We'll give you A-Rob. We'll find another receiver for you. You like to run the ball, so you don't even throw the ball. So you can use your legs. We don't even need a running back if you're a running back.
I think if we were able to entice them,
you got Kyren Williams. Here's my plan. We got Lamar Jackson. We got Cooper Kupp. We have A-Rob. We have Kyren Williams. Maybe we have another running back there.
I think free agents would follow Lamar, like if he came here, but it's like you had to convince him, which he's gonna ask for a lot of money, and I don't know if we can. Maybe we could afford it.
We might be able to. It just depends on how the chips fall, and the Rams, they like to push their debts a little bit further and further, and if they want to be a winning culture and they want to stack the wins, just create a small dynasty within the McVay era. It's not you're the one who
that would be an interesting way to try to entice McVay to stay, is to sign someone like Lamar.
It would be brilliant. I think it would be a truly brilliant move to find somebody with his caliber to come back in. And if this may be Stafford's out, and the Rams are now looking at their potential next quarterback suitor, and if that takes them to another playoff run and Super Bowl run, all for it. And maybe that gives Aaron Donald that extra one more year to fight for everything he has.
Yeah.
So I think this is just lands at the perfect conclusion of our futuristic planning. I was just reading Andrew Siciliano's tweet that said, if Stafford lands in the concussion protocol and John Wolford dealing with a neck injury, Sean McVay says the Rams are having preliminary discussions about signing another QB.
Oh, jeez. I swear if we sign Cam Newton, there's gonna be a lot of bridges I'm jumping off of Zach.
Yeah,
Just
I'm not a
Bobby
Cam Newton
Brown
fan.
with Cam Newton behind him. You never thought you would hear that sentence, Zach.
Oh man, how fun is that?
Wait, it is perfect to sum up our season with a cooked Cam Newton and Bobby Brown starting on the line.
Chaos. All right. Well, we've had enough fun, I think, on this week's episode.
It's fine. We're only talking about trading away all of our favorite players that we want to see
You
retire.
are talking about it. I am trying to
Whoa.
figure out how we're going to keep them.
All I'm saying, Zach, is I'm being a realist. All right.
I know.
I want to keep them until like they grow old and they retire.
I'm just saying. I'll take it
we suck.
I'll take it a win that we get Aaron Donald and no other team gets him. Like, I will take that as the win of the NFL lifetime that we kept Aaron Donald until retirement.
Well, 12 other teams could have had him. So,
well, that's true, but they didn't, and we did. So, I will take that as a win. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode of the East Coast Rams podcast. Please like and share the podcast. Reminder that we are now on YouTube, so please subscribe. Some people always say smash that bell. Go ahead, smash that bell. You can find us at youtube.com/@East Coast Rams. And you can always send questions and feedback to us at feedback@East Coast Rams or hit us up on Twitter. Our ECR Twitter account is at East Coast Rams. Ashton, where can people find and connect with you?
You can find me at RamFanAshton1 on Twitter as long as it still is existing in a few weeks. So just follow me there, and love talking to you guys, and hopefully the season turns around and we don't have to talk about negative things for the rest of the time.
Yes, and I will continue to work on my awesome outro voice. You can find me at Zac Mayer. We love interacting with you guys on Twitter. It's so much fun being able to connect with you guys. We are getting just closer and closer to our 1-year anniversary of the East Coast Ram podcast. Looking super forward to that. Hopefully we will have a victory Monday or victory whatever day that we record this podcast. Because I am tired of not having victory Mondays. So with that, let's hope to, everyone have a happy Thanksgiving while you guys listen to this. Eat some nice turkey. And if you're one of those weird people who eat ham, do that as well. Some people like lasagna. Whatever floats your boat. Just make sure that you guys are spending some good time with your family. Be very thankful for what we do have. Be thankful for being able to watch the Rams games and the players that we do have, at least for now. And yeah, be nice to each other out there, people. I'm thankful for everyone that listens to our podcast. Keep spreading the word, and let's get this done on Sunday, Ramley. Horns up.